Well, hey everybody, this is Chris DeFurio with Keys to the Shop, and welcome to another edition of Shift Break. Now, today's episode is brought to you by our friends at La Marzocco. They have been making espresso machines by hand in Florence since 1927. And this almost 100-year-old company has been at the forefront of what we know as dependable espresso machines. They are a household name in coffee, cornerstone of espresso equipment. And I grew up using them. You probably did as well if you've been in this game for a bit, for a good reason. They last a long time. They are dependable. They're beautiful. They innovate features that really do make a difference in the coffee, not just innovation for innovation's sake. And I think that it's a great company, and you definitely should check them out at lamarzocousa.com and check out the machines they have to offer. They have very more analog machines, very technologically advanced machines of all shapes and sizes for you to find something that fits your style and what you need in your coffee shop. Their sales folks can be reached by emailing info@lamarzocousa.com. And if you're opening a coffee shop for the first time or opening a new coffee shop at another location, or you just want to upgrade your equipment, La Marzocco has the equipment that you need. So check them out, lamarzocousa.com. Also, rattleware.com is the place that makes smallwares that just work, the way that smallware should. Pitchers, whisks, knock boxes, shot glasses, all of the things that you need, the small things that make a big difference in the store. Rattleware is all about helping you by being the background player, the one that supports the business and makes it possible for you to not have to think about whether your smallwares are going to be functional. You can just do what you do, the craft of operations and coffee and hospitality. I would encourage you, go to rattleware.com, check them out. If you find that label on something and it's between that and another item, I think you just choose Rattleware. That's a good option. So again, rattleware.com. Now, today's episode, we're going to talk about bad apples. Now, one of the things I have seen many, many times, and every time I go to coffee fests, I ask similar questions to people and get responses that are very telling. When the audience answers the question of how many of you have somebody right now that you have known for a long time is kind of somebody that you kind of regret hiring. They're not working out. They are kind of stinking the place up. There's a little bit of a toxic element there. So many hands go up. And it's a tragedy because what happens when you hire somebody who is a bad fit for the business, or by choice of their own, they decide that they're going to start going away from the values of the business. They start to raise a lot of issues by their behavior, things that are antithetical to what previously they agreed to. Then it becomes an issue of having to execute discipline, or what I like to really just talk about is accountability. And their accountability processes are attempts at restoration. That's what I like to think of them as. Not punitive, not, hey, you better get your act together and you're on your own. It's more like an investment into an individual and a concerted effort to try to get them to see that a certain behavior that they have by, toxic complaining or constantly just being a heaviness on the team, or stuff related to hospitality where they're not giving great hospitality, not greeting customers. They are leaving work undone and not pulling their weight on the shift. There's a lot of things that you could point to with employees who become a bad fit for the business or were hired with the hopes that they would be the good fit, but some of the signs were not heeded in the interview process. We just needed people, and so we hired them, and now they're there. And everybody is watching that person. You could call them a low performer. You can call them somebody who is, like I said, it might be a little toxic. And they're watching to see what you do. Most of the time, what we do is we let it happen, and we let it happen for so long that other people start to get the idea that whatever is their behavior is completely fine. And you start to see it spread. And it spoils the whole bushel, the whole bunch, however you want to do the whole bad apple analogy. But it really actually, in the culture of a coffee shop, when you allow this to coexist at the same in the same cafe right next to other people, it will spread, and it's a lot harder to spread the opposite direction. And a good leader makes a decision that they are going to first have a process for addressing what I think is an inevitable issue, which is you're going to have to eventually correct somebody, talk with them, have an uncomfortable conversation. You might even need to let them go, and you should have a process for what that looks like. You don't just do it willy-nilly. I mean, that's unwise, and oftentimes we rely on our emotions and reactivity to justify our actions. Well, I felt really bad, and it's their fault, so I'm just going to see. That's going to get you in trouble, because it's not an objective measure of a behavior that can be pointed to say, here is why we are taking this next action. Accountability processes where you might have 3 strikes, you might have 4 steps, should be framed from the perspective of restoration. You might have hired them for a reason, right? There's some aspect of their personality, skill sets, and other things that we can point to say, we look at, honestly, we hired you for a reason. We love you. We like you. We want you to do well here. We want you to thrive. Now, you have to do some work in your own heart if you can't think that way. But I really think that's the best way to go about it. Now, they can decide for themselves whether they're going to opt into the way things go at this cafe. And no cafe is perfect. Sometimes the stuff that's happening is their reaction to things they don't like. Maybe it's immature what they're doing, but we still can do things to help. But fact is, we still need to address it. And we need to say, hey, this behavior is happening. Here's what I see. Here's the consequence. Here's why it can't keep happening. And I'm here to help you. And I want you to be working on this because I've given you now, this is officially a verbal warning. And this verbal warning might be followed by a written warning. And after that, some probationary status for, I would say, no longer than 30 days, if that. And at the end, the process ends basically with, if they haven't rectified the situation with your help, then they probably shouldn't be working for you. And they should move to some place where it's a better fit. Because it's not that they're a bad person. It's simply that it's like a square peg in a round hole. It just doesn't fit. That's not a value judgment of the individual. It is a context judgment of the individual, if you can call it that. But you can't allow that to simply be there because you feel like maybe it reflects poorly on you as a leader that you have somebody doing that. So you're gonna allow this behavior and never confront it in hopes that they're going to be better eventually. And without the teeth behind the policy, without that accountability process, you really can't manage very well. You're not going to be able to lead very well. You've got to take care of this. You've got to nip it in the bud. And that's the most important thing, I think, for culture, is not just being an agent of clarity and resourcing for your staff. Being somebody who is a servant leader is facilitating their success by supporting them with what they need to do their work very well through great presence, communication, tools, standards that are clear, expectations that are reasonable and clear. Just the library of keys to the shop approach to this craft of operations and leadership. It also has to do with protecting, and it starts with, the protecting aspect starts with actually upholding the policies that most of your staff actually uphold. They are looking to see whether this is going to be handled or not. And often, more times than I can count, when somebody has been let go at the end of this process, try as we might, try as I have, and they have to be let go, there is an ease. There is a, because it wasn't just you that was experiencing this heaviness or this feeling that this person was kind of bringing things down. It was other people who work with them that are experiencing it firsthand, probably more so than you. And sometimes they'll think, well, why did it take you so long to do that? That was really, it was hurting morale. Customers were, I mean, if you want to get financial about it, customers aren't tipping as well when this person is on the register because they just give bad service. They leave more work for us. And that is the message today, I think, for us is when you see this happening, don't bury your head in the sand. You've got to think first, what's my policy? Where's my process? You don't have to think for a month about that. You can do that in a few days. Come up with something and then start going through a documented process that is about accountability and restoration, reorientation of that person to the standard that they knew was the standard, right? We hope. And if they decide that, through their actions, they decide that they're not going to do that, we manage them into a position where now we have to let them go. We're not managing them out. I hate that. I don't like that. The whole managing them out is one of the most passive aggressive and weak moves that I've seen in coffee, where you just give them fewer and fewer shifts. They don't know exactly what they did wrong, or you're not talking to them because you don't want to confront them. But for you, it's just like, oh, well, maybe they'll get the hint. Don't do that kind of stuff. Don't be a passive aggressive manager. Be somebody who is benevolent and is able to be decisive and approach difficult conversations. Sit down with somebody, identify it, be confident, be clear, be candid. Clear is kind. And if you want to be kind, and I think a lot of you do, most of you do, then that starts with having that let's sit down conversation and going from there. So don't let bad apples spoil the whole bunch. You've got to figure out how to walk them through a process. And sometimes they don't realize that their behavior is causing this kind of friction. They're not aware. For a lot of people, their self-awareness is very low. Now that might mean they're not good for this job, or it might mean that this job is going to be good for them and they actually do respond well and quickly. But we can't have them respond in the course of like a year. You can't just keep on extending this toxic grace. And, patience is basically not a virtue when it's extended that far. So you got to make those decisions and those hard calls. And culture behind the bar is it is the lifeblood of morale, and the work as the basis of what unites us and the why behind the work. That needs to be kept intact. And that's one of those areas that you need to steward as a leader and a manager. So I hope that this helps you. If you've been putting something off that you need to address, now is the time. Now is the time to address it. Make sure that you're not going to do that passive aggressively. Whatever you need to do to remove any kind of pent up bitterness that you've had, allow this message to say, hey, you've accepted this behavior. You're culpable in it because you've seen it but not done anything about it. So if all of your angst is towards this individual, maybe some of the way you can ease that angst is take ownership yourself and come with humility, but as an authority. You can still have humility as an authority with a decisive approach around what are we going to do to solve this? It has to be solved, and it needs to be solved quickly. And if it can't, then what we're going to have to do is basically part ways, because we can't continue to allow this element to negatively impact all of this other stuff. We can't let one bad apple spoil the whole bunch. And honestly, this bad apple thing, it's not the perfect way to put it. As I get done recording this, bad is kind of an incendiary word. Bad apple is maybe not the right term. So forgive me for putting it out there like, oh, well, this person's just bad. They're rotten. What a rotten person. Tons of sweet and awesome people I have worked with over the years have exhibited rotting behavior in certain situations, myself included. When put into a different situation, they're given enough distance, one, to realize the error of their ways where their pride wouldn't allow them to in the moment, just kind of dig your heels in. And then two, they might be in a better place for their natural strengths. So if you'll forgive the title of this episode, get the main message. I hope it helps you in whatever situation you find yourself in. If you need coaching or consulting, Keys to the Shop works one-on-one with coffee shop owners. That's the main thing I do. And I hope that maybe we can work together one day as well. You can email chris@keystotheshop.com. We'll set up a discovery call and just chat about what you're looking for and how I might be able to help you. Okay? So take care, everybody. Thanks. And we'll see you here next week for another edition of Shift Break from Keys to the Shop.